It's the part of retirement planning no one wants to think about, but absolutely everyone should. What happens financially when one spouse passes away? The loss is emotional, it's personal, but it also comes with big changes to your income, taxes, Social Security, and even healthcare costs. And if you don't plan for it in advance, it can create real financial stress at the worst possible time. I'm Cary Green, financial advisor and co-founder of Green Era Financial, and I help people close to or in retirement to get the most out of life with their money. And today, we're walking through what actually happens to your financial plan when one spouse dies and what you can do now to prepare for it. So let's get into it. When one spouse passes away, the household loses one of the two Social Security checks, and that can significantly impact your income and your ability to cover your expenses. Social Security provides a survivor benefit, which allows the surviving spouse to continue receiving the higher of the two benefits. But that doesn't mean you keep both checks. The lower benefit simply disappears. So if your retirement plan was based on having two income streams from Social Security, that change can feel like a sudden and drastic pay cut. Here's an example. Suppose one spouse receives $2,800 per month and the other receives $1,800. When one of them passes away, the surviving spouse gets to keep the $2,800, but the $1,800 is gone. That's a loss of nearly 40% of the household's Social Security income. Now imagine your fixed monthly expenses. Your mortgage or rent, insurance premiums, utility bills, food, those don't automatically shrink just because one person is gone. In many cases, the cost of living doesn't go down by much at all. That's why it's so important to plan for this reduction in income in advance. We often model out retirement plans that include both spouses during retirement and then simulate what happens if one of them passes away at different ages. That way, we know what adjustments need to be made and when. Sometimes the solution is having a larger cash reserve. Other times it's increasing guaranteed income from other sources. But the most important thing is having a plan so that your surviving spouse isn't left scrambling. Now, there's a little known issue that catches a lot of surviving spouses off guard, and that's the widow's tax penalty. And it works like this. When you're married and filing jointly, you benefit from wider tax brackets. For example, in 2025, the 12% tax bracket for a married couple goes up to around $94,000 of taxable income. But for a single filer, it caps out at around $47,000. That's a big difference. Now imagine your income stays roughly the same after one spouse dies, maybe because of required minimum distributions, annuity payments, or rental income, but your filing status changes from married filing jointly to single. That change alone could push you into a higher tax bracket even without any increase in income. And it doesn't stop there. A higher tax bracket could mean more of your Social Security gets taxed. It could push you above IRMA thresholds, which would increase your Medicare premiums. It could also reduce eligibility for certain tax deductions or credits. And once you hit age 73 and RMDs kick in, the impact can become even more pronounced. A surviving spouse may end up paying significantly more in taxes on the same portfolio that produced a lower tax bill when both spouses were alive. This is why proactive tax planning matters so much. If you're in your 60s and recently retired, that window between retirement and age 73 is a golden opportunity to reduce future taxes by using things like Roth conversions, managing capital gains, and rebalancing your income sources. Doing this early can shield the surviving spouse from future tax spikes. When one spouse passes away, your investment and income strategy needs to be revisited. First, let's talk about risk tolerance. If the deceased spouse was the one more comfortable with market volatility, the surviving spouse may suddenly feel uneasy about the current portfolio. A plan that was once balanced may now feel too aggressive, or in some cases too conservative. Second, income needs often change. The household might need less income overall, but that income may need to come from different sources. If one Social Security check is gone and taxes have increased, you might need to draw more from your investments just to maintain the same lifestyle. Third, don't overlook the emotional side. The surviving spouse may not want to manage a complex portfolio. Maybe they want fewer accounts. Maybe they want less market exposure. Simplicity becomes a priority, and that should be reflected in the investment strategy. This is where custom retirement income planning becomes essential. We don't just look at today, we model out what happens if one spouse lives 10, 15, or 20 years beyond the other. That kind of planning informs decisions like whether to do Roth conversions now, whether to delay Social Security, and how to structure guaranteed income streams. For example, if you expect a surviving spouse to be in a higher tax bracket alone, you might accelerate Roth conversions now while you're still filing jointly. That reduces future RMDs and leaves more tax-free income for the years ahead. Or if you know one spouse will lose access to a pension or health insurance when the other passes, you can begin building buffers now, whether through annuities, cash reserves, or other income streams. Ultimately, the goal is to make sure that your retirement plan doesn't just work while you're both alive, but also after one of you is gone. Now, there are several other financial changes that can happen when a spouse passes away, and they often catch people off guard. For example, pension income can change. Some pensions stop entirely when the account holder dies. Others offer survivor benefits, but only if you elected them in advance. It's important to know what kind of pension you have and what the survivor options look like. Health insurance can also change. If the deceased spouse was the one carrying the health plan, the surviving spouse might lose coverage or have to find an expensive replacement. Now, life insurance plays a key role here too. If a policy is still active and appropriately sized, it can help offset the loss of income or cover final expenses. But many people let their life insurance lapse too early or don't have the right amount in place. On top of all of that, estate documents also need attention. When a spouse dies, the surviving spouse needs to update beneficiaries, powers of attorney, and possibly the entire estate plan. These updates are easy to overlook, but critically important. You can't avoid the emotional pain of losing a spouse, but you can reduce the financial stress that often follows. It starts with modeling what life looks like for the surviving spouse before anything happens. What would their income be? What would their tax bracket be? What changes would need to be made? From there, you can take real steps like creating a Social Security claiming strategy that supports both of you now and the survivor later. You can also coordinate Roth conversions and account withdrawals to reduce future taxes. You can make sure all beneficiary designations are up to date across every single account. You can talk now about whether downsizing your house would make sense in the future and have a plan in place. And you can evaluate whether life insurance should still play a role in your financial plan, not just for income replacement, but also for covering taxes or estate costs. Proactive planning builds financial resilience, not just for the good years of retirement, but for the years after one of you is gone. So ultimately, losing a spouse is incredibly hard, but with the right financial planning, it doesn't have to derail your entire retirement. So if you want help reviewing your retirement plan or making sure your surviving spouse would be financially secure, you can always visit us at greenerafinancial.com or feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm always happy to help if I can. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.